Everybody dies,
Fuck, that's so relatable.
but not everybody lives.
So couch sessions, this is what we're trying to build here is life-changing conversations, something that is accessible to people that probably wouldn't have these or have access to these conversations.
Yep.
In other words, couch sessions is this kind of funny one where we're not really focusing on anything in particular, there's no theme, but it's about relevance and it's about things that we've noticed and giving insight on those things. So, maybe something you noticed during the week, maybe something that's happened, maybe something that's in the media. But I wanted to get you on for this because I think, everything we just talked about, the passion and the things that you would see that, around these things that, the media drive, I just think it's going to be a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There's one topic that I want to touch on, but I think it's gonna carry on to a few other topics and things like that, and even come back to what you said before. But on the weekend, I don't know who watched. I didn't watch the fight.
No, I didn't watch the fight either.
I didn't watch the fight. I'm not that deep into it, but I obviously seen the media afterwards, and it was Conor McGregor. And I think he's such an interesting guy. Over time, there was a point where I kind of looked up to him a little bit, not looked up to him in someone he would follow, but I go, I really like what he's doing. I respect the path he's on. But on the weekend, his exit interview after he broke his leg.
So disappointing.
It was so disappointing. And I was like, one of the, I'm just thinking about his kids and his wife, that's the first thing for me. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, I thought he was married.
He is.
So married, why is he talking about someone else's wife?
That's the whole point.
Yeah. Well, I was actually focused on the other thing that came out of his mouth, which was obviously that, but just not being able to lose with grace. And while I'm not convinced that he actually lost, what came out of his mouth made him a loser. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think last year he was the highest paid athlete of all time. I think over 100 million.
I think he earned the most last year.
Yeah. But he's a billionaire.
Yeah. So you have all the money in the world, still can't buy class.
Yeah. But this is kind of for me, this is the dynamic of the conversation that I'm so interested in, is we talked about it before, his legacy. I feel like his legacy isn't necessarily being a world-class fighter. I feel like for him, he was, if you look at his past, he come from nothing. His legacy might have been money, and I think he might be caught in this land at the moment where he's almost clutching because he's lost that purpose. He's lost what it is that got him to where he wanted to go.
Yep. I've seen it often in entrepreneurship. Someone has an exit, i.e. they win a massive fight and become Conor McGregor, and then they think their shit don't stink, so they stop with the craft. They start to lose their purpose because their bank account's full of money. They don't put in the extra miles it took them, that got them to where they are today. And so I'll say honestly, when I had my first exit, it was the best and the worst thing that ever happened to me. And while my position is very different to Conor McGregor, yeah, very different. Billions of dollars difference, lifestyle difference, attitude difference, ego difference, everything. I understand it because he came out really fast. He came out really fast and went really big. He became the face of, and I know nothing about this, yeah? So I only see it as a consumer that may walk past the pub and see his poster, hey, the McGregor fight's on. The guy that does some quite controversial, there's stuff that floats through my Instagram feed on, crazy slams or whatever the case may be. He shows up organically in a feed. He's definitely going to show up today because Instagram's listening. So there's going to be a ton of Conor McGregor stuff showing up in my feed. However, he's kind of, he's lost. I've seen a couple of my friends raise tens of millions of dollars and within 24 months be out of business. They lost what got them to where they are at and stopped doing the things that got them there and thought they're there now. It's It's my favorite story. I think we talked about this last time, David and Goliath. Yeah, Goliath lost his way. I'm the king of the mountain. You can't come up here. David did what he did to take him down. And so Conor McGregor was the David who turned into Goliath, and now is Goliath. And we know how that story ended. So, allegedly ended. So, losing your will, but I think it's worse than that. Like, I think the performance side is one thing. I wonder how many customers and how many fans he lost with his potty mouth.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me is, and I guess the deeper conversation here is for me is around legacy and morality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, because I know me and you have had some conversations about Jake Paul, right? And like, you know, like the dynamic there, but and we were kind of having this conversation before, but it's like, you know, there's nothing different to what Conor did and what Jake Paul does, right? And it's like Jake Paul gets hated on for it, and I understand what he's doing. You know, he's doing the same as Conor, polarizing. It sells tickets. It's going to get him to where he wants to go. But I just think it's interesting as well from a cognitive bias perspective. You know, how they're still like, I don't think Conor will lose some, but I think Conor's not going to lose.
I think it's very important what he does next. He's obviously come out and he's said those things, but his next actions are going to be what helps to define his reputation. And Jake Paul's at a different stage in his career too. You know, Conor McGregor, he's over the peak, you know, and so we were having this conversation before, like, the older you get, surely you try to bring a little bit more humility into your life.
I actually think, with age and experience, but more importantly, you've got young kids.
Yeah.
And so
you want to be a role model to them.
Be a role model. Yeah. They're going to follow in your footsteps. I've found myself kicking myself late at nights where I've not done the best thing, and my daughters... Well, I've done something, whether it's yell at them or whatever, and then I've watched them yell at each other. Like, fucking dickhead. Mm-hmm. They're learning that from me. You know, fortunately, it's not that bad. But my point is, he's a leader in his home, and his kids will look up to him. And I think he's let them down. Now, let's not hang shit on him. Everyone goes through these things. Hopefully, to your point, what he does next helps him rise again. I want nothing but to see everyone successful. I don't think he deserves to be kicked in the guts. But at the same time, this is going to be a massive lesson, and how he responds is really going to define who he is as a person.
Yeah, he's kind of lost his identity, though, hasn't he? He's lost, like, obviously he's reached that stage where he's now Goliath, and he doesn't have that drive. He doesn't have the fight with him anymore. And so he's going to have to rediscover his next purpose. Easier to do as an entrepreneur, because you can just pivot that onto a new idea. Yep. If you're a fighter, what comes next?
Well, this is the really interesting thing for me, right? Is that if you watched what he was like with Dustin in his last fight, which I actually paid a bit more attention to.
Wouldn't have a clue.
But it was only previously. He was the nice guy. Like, you know, they're facing off. He's got his arm wrapped around him. He's being nice, being really respectful. And it's really interesting because I think the dynamic of, you know, if you look at... of an athlete, right? You look at the greatest athletes of all time, they've got that killer instinct in them. And it's interesting because I kind of think that would be the thing that's playing mind games with Conor. Yeah? Like, you know, you think about it. He's a billionaire now. He's probably reached the peak of the mountain, and he probably had that humility, right? He probably turned that corner, and then he goes out and he just gets pummeled in a fight. And it's like, you know, is in his head, right, is he's going, this needs to be a mirage. I need to somehow trick myself into believing that I'm climbing that mountain again. And that's what
he's doing it for money now. I think he's doing it for money now because he's starting to mount up his losses, and he's just doing it for the monetary gain.
As in, are you alluding to the fact that he might be overspending on a lifestyle that he can no longer afford?
Absolutely.
And therefore
he's
has
like
to take...
Floyd Mayweather, same deal. They spend way too much, and they're just doing it for the money. You can see in his fights, he doesn't have the drive to win anymore.
But the fights isn't his... That's like he's making 20 million. His business is turning over nearly 750. You know, like, for me, it's the other way around.
Yeah, but that's him just trying to stay relevant.
Nah, see, I look at the other way around. I think he got to the peak of the mountain. He's got the money now, and he's scared that he's losing this. Like, he's not motivated.
Yeah, so I love this in basketball, right? You've got a 20-point lead. got $1 billion in the bank, and you start playing the game, and actually instead of putting more points on the board, you start playing defense, and you start protecting the lead versus accretively growing the lead. I think that's what's happened. But this is all at a very interesting point in time, because if he didn't lean back and snap his leg, what would we be saying now? Because I don't think he lost.
He would have lost that fight, though.
Yeah, I didn't watch, but I don't think the snap in the leg was not a kick. The snap in the leg was.
So they come out today and said that they showed where it broke. So he went to kick forward. Dustin just blocked it with his elbow, and they showed the snap before it, and you could see it wobbling around even after a few steps, and then the one went back and it snapped.
Oh, man.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, I think it's...
Do you also get pain in your groin when you talk about this sort of stuff?
Mate, I've had 3-4 knee reconstructions.
Oh, dude.
So I'm just like, seeing that kind of stuff is, to me, I'm like...
You would have seen Giannis's hyperextension the other day.
Yes, but I saw Paul George. I think he was playing for... Maybe he was playing for Team USA, and he snapped his leg on it. Oh, no. Let's get to the next topic, yeah?
Yeah.
It pains me.
Yeah. But that, and I guess the follow-on from this is one of the things there's kind of two subjects, and it's about the cognitive bias. Like, I wanted to bring it back to Jake Paul, right? Because he gets absolutely thrashed for it. And he's no better than Conor. Like, he does a lot of what he did the same thing to Conor and did it badly. But the thing that I guess you think is a really interesting conversation is, why would it, at what point do we allow morality or choose what morality is based on the status of someone or what they have achieved? Like, is it okay for someone like Conor, who has the accolades in the ring, to get away with something like that or have less consequences because he's done more in the ring?
I think it all comes from where you come from.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And so the wiser man in the room with a level of experience that leans on good quality people, like you saw it with Tiger Woods, bad example, very different subject, but everyone's saying yes, yes, yes. And when he got caught and found out and all the rest of it, shit started to fall down. But if he had the right people around him, really steering him, going, dude, you've got nothing to worry about, just keep your shit clean and stop playing this fucking bullshit over here. Unfortunately, Conor, I don't think he has that in his corner, and the hype of MMA or fighting or whatever the sport it is, I'm really not in sync with it, is it's the hype game. It's the I'm the biggest, I'm the best, and I can get lucky with a shot that'll knock you out, or I'm just going to tell you how great I am and sell a lot of tickets, and it doesn't matter about the outcome because I'm getting paid, so he gives a shit.
Potentially his upbringing is coming out again towards the back end of his career. I think that's really interesting.
We've seen it in business, right? I have anyway. I expect more out of some of my suppliers, but then when I realize who they are and what they're doing as part of the wheel for my machine, I have to remind myself to be able to, I don't think I'm better, or I don't have to come down, but I definitely have to speak on their level. Whether that's above or below, it's irrelevant, but I have to speak on their level. I just left support office in South Melbourne, where we have 15 staff, and George and I didn't get into a heated conversation between us, but we were in thralls of passion of and I was like, mate, you got to, it wasn't me and him, it was his perception of a reality of what's truly happening in a circumstance that we're involved in at the moment. And I'm like, mate, just remember who the audience is here, yeah? Remember who we're speaking to, and if your message is not getting through to them, then you're going to have to pivot down or up or across. But just remember the recipient is the person that you need to get the conversation across. And then once you check yourself on, actually, you know what, I actually have to step up if I'm speaking to a top tier CEO, or I have to step down because I'm speaking to a young student that's coming off and is completely green. If you can put your shoes in your foot in the shoes of the recipient, I think you can communicate a lot better. I'm not sure how we got to this part, but all I can say is I think Conor doesn't have a solid foundation. He might have billions in the bank, or allegedly turning over billions doesn't necessarily make he has that in liquid. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the right people in your corner, easy come, easy go. To your point, where I'm just going to take fights, take losses because I need the revenue coming through the door.
Well, it defines him. It's that's his identity, and I think now that he's starting to rack up the losses, he doesn't know who he is anymore. You know.
But yeah, and this is the thing, right? Like, is he like, and this is like, is he just better off calling it?
No, so you're thinking too wisely. You're thinking too strategic. This is another guy. This is a guy that needs another hit. He needs either another music hit, if you're a musician and you don't want to sell platinum records, or a fighter that needs to have that next fight win draw. It's covering his exposure on the next liability he has outside of the ring. So I'm not entirely sure that we want to waste the audience time trying to dissect Conor McGregor, because I think in reality, I think he's perfectly positioned for where he's come from and what he's done, and he should be very proud of himself. Circumstantially, maybe he lost the fight, but his reactions and actions will define him, and people either look up to that because they're also coming from nothing to, oh my God, you could be the next Conor McGregor, or, massive pivot here, you could be like Richard Branson, who went into space yesterday and on Virgin Galactic, and he's up there going, I was just a kid with a dream.
How cool was that?
And I got shivers. I actually showed my daughter 4 times. I was like, listen to the subtitles that are coming. Read the subtitles that are coming here. He was just a kid like you once, and he dreamt of going to space, and he did it. Conor McGregor, let's bring it back, was a guy with literally nothing but his bare knuckles, and he turned out to be quite successful with his fists that got him to the status that he's at. I think that the message here is, or should be, and I welcome pivots from you guys at any time, is that if you can believe in yourself, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from Conor or you're Richard Branson and you want to knock the next person out, or you want to take people to the moon or into space on travel. If you're willing to back yourself and you're willing to put in the work, 17 years it took Richard Branson to become an astronaut yesterday. 17 years. Not an overnight success, right? And I'm sure Conor McGregor equally probably took him just as long to do whatever he did to get where he's at, for us to be wasting 35 minutes right now talking about a broken leg in a match. So I think that if you're prepared to back yourself and you have people that are prepared to back you, almost like putting your chips behind you in a casino, only potentially with better odds, then you must go out and execute and never forget where you've come from, and never forget what got you, never forget what you did to get to where you're at, and then it's a repeat. I say to the happiness team every day, we don't need to be doing more for our members. We just need to stay consistent at doing what we've already set the bar at hitting every day. If we exceed it, that's great, that's growth, but now we need to play the game up here. Don't come back down here because you're going to let people down. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I've completely
No, I mean, the whole reason I wanted to talk about it is just legacy, right? Like, I think legacy is something that's huge, and it's an interesting psychological dynamic, right? That, you know, because it's in us as business owners too, right? The want for more, you know, the need for more. It's like the bigger, the better, the additive, you know, what's the next move? And I feel like that's almost the situation he's come in, but it's like you mentioned it before, the loss of identity, and it's just an interesting thing around legacy. You know, like, what is his legacy? Is he tarnishing that right now? You know, is this going to be, you know, can he control himself in this moment? Is that the characteristic of someone of greatness? You know, like.
But I think you're. So I love you, but I think you're thinking too deeply about it. I think Conor McGregor is looking for his next punch up. That's what he's thinking about. Get my leg better so I can go out there and punch some other guy in the face. I think that's all he cares about. Yeah, I don't think he thinks about legacy. I don't think he thinks about the tone and the value that he's setting for his kids and people that are watching him. I don't think he cares. I think they're feeding him too much money, and he's completely disconnected. And this situation is going to humble him one way or another. For me, legacy is everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's what I want to know, right? So like, you know, how do you define it then? Or what is it to you?
Well, I suppose it's completely tied to how I want to leave the world.
Yeah.
and I want to leave it in a better place than when I entered it. And I want my kids to be in a safe place financially, and I want my kids to have freedom and not have to work because they have to pay the bills or the mortgage or this or that, but they can go and do whatever they want. Like, I sit with my daughter Maddie every night, and she wants to be a big DJ, musician, singer, actress. She's prepared to put in the work, but I don't care if she makes $5 from it or she makes 50 million from it. It won't even matter, because I just want to enable her to be able to go and do that. Yeah, and that's my legacy.
How do you balance that though? Because you're a busy man, obviously, with the work that you do. How do you balance your work life?
I've got an amazing...
This is probably coming from two aspiring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, give us the advice.
So...
Well, we're both at a point where we're so just ingrained in what we do. It's very selfish, and you're now at a point where you have to be selfless.
Always been selfless.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't my kids, it was my mum and my sisters. Yeah. And if it wasn't them, it was my dogs. But the hard truth is, all comes down to my wife, right? She is the queen of our house, and she can kick me in the nuts and tell me how it is and tell me I'm getting carried away and ground me quite comfortably. And I love her, so I listen. Yeah. And so how do I balance it? I don't have a choice, because if I didn't balance it, she'd come at my throat, and not in an aggressive way. I'm not sure if you've ever met Sim. She's this amazing little package that couldn't look like she could hurt a fly, and she's not aggressive, but she's grounded and she has amazing values, and she'll tell me I'm off course. She doesn't grab me around the throat and say, you're being a dickhead or you're not giving it attention. But at the same time, I want for my kids what I didn't have, and that was a present father. My dad passed when I was young, and so at the age of 16, I didn't have a father in my life, and so I just want to give my kids what I didn't have. And when I get carried away with the entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of things going on and a lot of hustle, and I run from this one to that one to this, and I keep them all going to grow, my wife grounds me, and so I've been able to compartmentalize enough to get me by. And if I kind of slide outside the compartment, like she's capable and strong enough as a woman to bring me back to what's important.
So do you have a moment when you're in the car, you've just pulled into the driveway, especially last year being a very difficult year, how do you not bring that stress home?
Yeah, so actually Creative Cubes...
Because I feel like I stress 24/7.
You know what? And this sounds really weird, right? But getting a dog showed me how selfish I was. And it's just a dog. Like, I could imagine kids just being that next level up, but I'm like, because I'm the same. Like,
50 levels up.
Dad's everything to me, like I want to be a great dad. Like that's I have this, it's the same drive for me. It's like I just, and for me, it's like I'm not going to try to flick the switch when it happens. Instead, I want to do it now, so that when I'm there,
operating rhythm,
I'm there, and I can deal with it. But getting a dog changed that for me, because it showed me how selfish I was. It made me a better partner. Because I'll realize, I'm like, fuck, I must be a piece of shit when I come home. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, because I've just brought that stress. And even with COVID, like, we were talking, it's just like, it's one of those things that I just feel like getting the dog's been one of the best things that's happened to me, because it's given me something else to focus on. I feel like during COVID, all I've focused on is work. And I think back to, how selfish that is, especially because I've got a partner as well, And it's not to say that, same thing. It's like, I treat her with utmost amount of respect, but I guess it's the fact that I've been so ingrained in work that having him and that responsibility is like, I know that when I'm at home, I'm a partner, but he kind of comes with me everywhere. And now it's like, I have a responsibility. It's like, and it's almost taught me that don't work for the sake of working. Like, you've got other things out there that again, this word legacy, that are a part of this legacy. And
it's hard as an entrepreneur though, like you get caught up in the whole, like, you've got to be grinding 24/7.
Mate, no
I feel
excuse.
guilty when I have downtime.
Yeah, no excuse, and nothing's different on this side of the fence. Yeah, the grass is not greener on the other side. The reality is, like, this weekend, I've been going through a crazy transaction at the moment, which I can't share at the moment, but I'm going through crazy, and it's built into my weekend. And it threw me off the whole weekend. I was a horrible husband, horrible father, horrible person, period. just because this thing it got to a point where we're just about to transact and something comes out of left field. I'm like, fuck, why didn't you tell me that? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't know. Okay. Build. Okay, we're just about to, and then something else happens. Or there's this liability, or there's that, or whatever. And so I took that into the weekend. The Friday finished at 8 o'clock at night. Didn't get what I needed done. So that was going to happen now Monday, which is now Tuesday, probably Wednesday. It'll close tomorrow. And so perfectly normal, yeah. And like definitely not Superman here. However, Creative Cubes was created to help me compartmentalize. So when I was in Los Angeles, how Creative Cubes started was I was working from my spare bedroom in Los Angeles, and Sim, my wife, would be coming in, hey, let's go get ice cream, or let's go ride the bikes through Venice. Like, babe, I'm working. Yeah, but you work for yourself. Like, let's just take an hour off. Like, I can't switch this off to just do that and be happy. And in that moment, I need to sort of finish it. So I ended up taking a 2-person private office in a co-working space in Santa Monica, which was the old Google headquarters. And that's when I realized that actually I can go to work, I can go and smash whatever I need to smash. And it sounds crazy, but the physical locking of the door at night, despite the fact that my emails are on my phone and my laptop's in my back pocket, the locking of the door was actually the signal where I've just got to switch off and I've got to be 100 on the other side, which is in focus of her. Yeah. And so now I refer to it as almost 2 treadmills, where I come in, I do the entrepreneur thing at 4 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 at night, park, go home, I'm bathing the kids or showering the kids or reading books or doing sight words or doing whatever the case was. They go back to bed, and then I actually like get 2 hours to myself to just read the iPad, go through my Twitter feed, read articles that come through. Flipboard used to be one of my favorite apps. Then Apple bought Apple News. Like, it's complicated, but and then it's up and repeat. Yeah, so almost break the day into cycles.
It's good,
and you've got to be disciplined.
You set that boundary though, where
it doesn't always work.
No,
but yeah, no. Like, I just want to be real with you, but like, I do try. I probably try even harder on the family side of things, because I'm so in love with trying to execute as an entrepreneur that I can't dance with both at the same time.
I totally agree. Like, the Cubes was big for me for that, like being able to come in somewhere and then, I know at 6 o'clock, it's like I'm going home, I'm switching off. It gives me that time, whether I'm walking home because I live close or it's a drive. It was that signal to me that it's like, okay, now I can stop. And that's kind of what I mean is, like, now when I go home, I don't work.
Yep.
I'm just done. And that's, whereas previously, before getting this guy, because my partner's, high demand role, she's growing, she's in the same thing. Like, she's not an entrepreneur, but she's trying to really progress in her career, and she's doing an amazing job. Like, and she continuously keeps upping that level. And it's like, we're both getting home and we were bringing work home. And because we were both doing it, it's like, it's okay now. Do you know what I mean? And that's what he's changed, because it's like, you can't get away with that, like when we get home anymore. And it's been good for us. We're like, how were we functioning previously?
Yep.
And I think that to the point is, like, one thing I always said about a dog was that I wasn't ready for it. And it's like, what a load of shit. Because it's like, that is the exact, like, it's like, I think you need that responsibility to make those changes. And that's why I'm like, that just, even, like, I'm lucky I got surprised with him. Like, I rocked up on a Sunday and it was there.
You were expecting a cat.
I was expecting a cat,
a
right?
lot less work.
Oh man, I would have still been.
By the way, I was also surprised with my firstborn. I knew she was coming. I knew for 9 months she was coming. But the day that I found out was also quite a surprise. Like, oh shit, okay, now time to step up in here.
But I think, to the point, it's about, you can't really plan for it, but it's that responsibility that comes in. Like, I'm so grateful. And it's like, it's not even big. I'm making much more out of this than what it actually is, but it just showed me how selfish I was. And that's helping me even on weekends. It's like, I would be the guy who would be like, yeah, I'm going to work one day of my weekend. So I'd go to Cube Saturdays and that would just be my day. And I'm just thinking back to it now and I'm like, fuck, like, what are you doing? You're so, like, that's so selfish.
Sort of. I mean, if it made you happy, it is what it is.
It did make me happy. It did make me happy, right? But there wasn't enough conversation as to, hey, how are you, like, to my partner, how are you feeling about this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which and she's so supportive that it probably would have been okay no matter what. You know what I mean?
To your point, how do you balance? Like, I actually put stuff on my calendar.
Yeah.
So if my wife wants me somewhere, she needs to send me a calendar.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing on the 8th of this at 8 o'clock? No, I'm available. Cool, I'm sending you a calendar. And then, like, I do this thing with her. It used to be once a month. It's now like every 2 weeks. It's called a slow morning. Yeah. I take the kids to school. I come home. We walk the dog. We go for breakfast. If that's all, now we're doing some budgets for the new financial year.
Mm-hmm.
But slow morning is built in to...
I've introduced that into my own life, actually.
Yeah?
So I don't get up and started until about 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I use that time for myself.
No, so this slow morning is not just having a sleep in?
I don't have a sleep in. I get up, I exercise,
Oh,
I
okay.
do all those things for myself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so I build this stuff into my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Saturdays I have a 10 o'clock. It's singing lessons with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Oh, so you even do it on the weekends?
Yeah,
Okay.
like
Wow.
I'm governed by my calendar.
Yeah.
And so long as it's in my calendar, I'm committed.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me compartmentalize as well.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone else and they say that they share the calendar.
We have a shared calendar.
Yeah, the shared calendar works really well, and that's something I'm going to do because I'm a big calendar guy as well. Like, everything in my day from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed is prioritized. Same with weekends. For me, I don't actually calendar anything else.
Do you have two separate calendars though? Because
yes.
I
have more than two, but yes.
Yeah.
The idea is, and here's my wife now calling. We have a shared calendar as a family, and then we have. If she wants something from me, she doesn't put it in the shared calendar. She sends me a calendar, and it sits on my email.
This is hands down one of the biggest. Like, this is the hardest thing as an entrepreneur, in my opinion. Like,
because I worked literally all weekend. I was up at 7 and I was working through until midnight.
Yep. So
Both
I
days.
wasn't, but in my head, I was in this transaction the whole weekend, and so, but I wasn't at work. And sometimes it's even better to just go to the office and just be at the office.
Yeah.
Don't be home and not present. If you're home, be present. And if you're at work, be present. Don't be thinking about outside.
I think it's like, the book, The 4-Hour Workweek. I don't know Tim Ferriss, but he kind of talks about, like, it's just do the most important things. Like, whatever, and he goes, you can walk, if you do the most important things, it's going to get the most progress, and you only prioritize those. That gets you the growth, and you have the freedom everywhere else. But for me, it's kind of like, that's like, now it's like on a Saturday, I love taking him to the park. And I'm like, that's something that I'm not willing to sacrifice because I know it's going to affect his development.
Totally.
So I'm just like, cool. I've got 3 hours or 4 hours to go as hard as I can if I'm doing that. And it's even like even now, so it's changing the way I'm looking at my business. Like, there's tasks and things that I'm taking on now that I'm like, I'm not taking those on anymore. I'm outsourcing. I'm hiring. I'm the way I'm trying to grow my company instead of being that technician is now going, well, nah, like, I can't do that anymore. I need to be the leader. I need to be able to delegate. I need to be able to build this infrastructure in my business.
Totally.
And it's like, I just think it's crazy, the dynamic. You need a dog.
I respect it so much. It's something like, especially you, Tobes, I respect it so much because I always see your posts about your family and you spending time and just like laughing and having.
It's not easy though.
I'm sure it's really hard, but I respect it so much because from what it seems, family is obviously everything
North
to
Star,
you.
100%.
And everything that you do outside of that is just to facilitate that,
There's two stories, like two people's stories that I watch to be a better person, and just to set me straight when I think life's a little bit hard or, businesses and this and all that kind of stuff. And it's you and Brendan. I'm like, because I'm like, kids, what? Like,
man,
what do you mean?
BA for me is
GOAT.
Like how, just even on the phone. Yeah, I'll call him all fired up. I'll be like, cool, man. Yeah. Like really calm. And really collected and really thoughtful and really sincere and just dialed in. I'm like, fuck, I want to be like that.
Yeah, he 100%. And I look at you that way as well. I'm
I
like,
do too.
I'm like, I don't know
100%.
how he's doing it, but he's doing it, and I'm like, I respect it, and it kind of grounds me. It's like, hey, like you can do this too. You don't like, because I reckon as an entrepreneur, you get sucked into thinking you need to work all the time, and you need to that's the only way your idea will become
But I think
successful.
COVID did a lot for that. Like, if there's any silver lining in COVID, it's slow the fuck down. We're not here for a long time. Let's have a good time. And if you enjoy working for 7 hours on a Saturday, fucking go do it.
I think
But if you
COVID had the opposite effect on me.
I'm the same.
Really?
It revved
Yeah.
me up.
Oh, no. For me, it's sort of like...
But I didn't have those distractions.
But it slowed me down because I had no choice.
Well, yeah.
I'm a physical place to be, yeah? And we were told to stay at home. So I know we kind of were... we were able to get to the space, individually. I was there supporting essential services. So I was able to go to the office. But no, I actually enjoyed no planes in the sky when I'm running from, we live in Brighton, from Brighton to St Kilda and back. The water was always calm. The water was really clear.
That's why I love living down that way.
Yeah, it's just slow. Yeah, but I'd love to
There's
hear
no
why.
traffic as well.
Yeah, there was no traffic.
I love it. Yeah.
Curfew at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I get into bed at 7:30 every night and read. Often my kids put me to sleep. They're still playing till 8 o'clock. I'm like, hey guys, turn it down in there. I'm trying to get to sleep. But why did it have the opposite effect for you?
Honestly, I think it's because I was selfish. I really think I look back now and I go, I'm trying, and you know what, my habits are ingrained in me, and it's like, but I think it was purely because there was nothing really else to do. Like, I'm not the type of person who would sit down and just binge Netflix. Like, it just doesn't do it for
but
me.
I don't even remember the last TV. Oh, I'm watching a TV show at the moment because a friend of mine's on it, but I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
It's an absolute waste of time for me.
And that's what I'm saying, right? But I think for me, it was the selfishness. It's like I could have been doing all these other things. I could have been working on these other things, but instead I just turned to my work. And I think now it's now what I look at is I'm changing that. And I'm actually making an effort to really change that.
Super interesting because I was kind of forced. And the second I didn't give up by any stretch, but the second I gave and said, all right, COVID wins. I started to kind of enjoy the moment. It wasn't an enjoyable moment, but I started to enjoy the moment. It was my wife and I actually started leaving our kids at the house, and we would start to do walks around the blocks with the dogs because the kids didn't want to come. All right, well, you've got your iPad. If it was an emergency, my daughter's almost 10. If it's an emergency, just FaceTime us. I'll be home in 30 seconds. And we started to do bigger loops and longer loops and got out to 30 minutes. And spend time together, and then walk back into the house together.
That's so good.
I don't know, like
that's the stuff
it
that
slowed
you
me
need.
down.
That's what he's done for us. It's like we're doing walks together, we're doing all this stuff together now, and it's like for me, it's a shame that it took that to do it, but I'm so grateful for it, and I think that's the thing for me. It was like that change is what I needed.
Yep.
And that's been the spark. So it's been good for me in that sense, getting a puppy.
Yep.
But I definitely think the reason it went backward is because I do have this perception that I need to work extremely hard, and that again, it comes back to my North Star. It's like I'm in a rush because I need to get everything done before I become a father. And and the thing I started to realize was, am I using that as not an excuse, but as, I guess, almost like a mirage that everything needs to be perfect right now, and I need to build this magical business right now. Now, yes, I do need to work at it right now, but not at the expense of other things.
Yeah, so I think so much in that. The first thing that I want to say is that if everything finished tomorrow, the world collapsed and neither of us were on this planet anymore, how would you feel then?
100%.
Right.
And that's been the biggest thing. That's the question that I reckon over the last 3 months has been changing everything.
So I need to ask myself that question more often, I think.
Mate, you need to focus on what makes you happy. And if that's work, go ahead and do it. But I challenge you to try one new thing every week and see if your true happiness is in your work. Mine is, you know, 2 treadmills for me. And those 2 treadmills are perfect. I love the work treadmill, and it can go as fast and faster. But as soon as I come home, I got to get on the next treadmill, and I got to give the same to my kids and my wife. Yeah. But if everything was to end tomorrow, I'd be very, very happy. I'd be very, very content. I definitely wouldn't have hit the goals that I want to hit, but I'm doing what I'm doing right now. That makes me happy.
For a reason.
But I'm not convinced, Kyle, that your lens on it is definitely my lens at a younger age. I'm 41 this year, and my perception of it has very drastically changed, specifically in the last 9 years with Maddie, my oldest daughter, and maybe a little bit before that with just Sim. But Sim and I have been together for 20 years, and Sim and I probably would not have lasted if she didn't kick me in the nuts and say, hey, there's more to this world than you trying to make that extra sale and close that extra deal. And not even Q's related. This is like 20 years ago when I started making pet lures. You don't need to go visit that extra store today. Come home. It'll be there tomorrow. No. Yes. Get your ass. And because I love her that much, I was like, all right. I lowered my ego and listened to her, and I think it's put me in a good place. And I'm hopeful that Conor McGregor has someone like that in his life.
He was just a catalyst for this conversation.
Yeah, no, but like, you know, like it's in reality, like you're only as strong as your weakest link. And my wife is far from my weakest link, but she's really strong, and she knows how to handle me. To bring back for the focus. Yeah. She's amazing. And I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, legit, if it wasn't for her. If I sort of stayed in Sydney, because I was born and raised in Sydney, and I sort of potentially stayed with an ex-girlfriend and thought that was as good as it's ever going to be, like, I'd probably be a miserable little son of a bitch right now, yeah? But I came here, I widened my horizons. One of the biggest growth hacks that I think I ever did, in complete hindsight, was move overseas.
I was going to say that is a big one.
Where I had no friends, no family, and I had to go out and hustle, make money to cover rent, but those people that are now, like Los Angeles is where I lived for almost a decade. BA is a great example. Those people are like family to me. More so than my family. That's not to take anything away from my family. It's just like we went through different shit. And we're not blood, but we love each other and we care about each other. Not because we have to, because that's my brother or mom or sister or whatever. So a growth hack for me. I want to push.
Interesting. I had the same experience when I lived in London.
Yeah. Just I'm gonna push my kids out of the house. I'm already like warming my daughter up. Yeah, one day you're gonna go live in the US. Yeah, like mum and dad aren't gonna be there.
My mum had the same effect on me. She was like, you need to get overseas.
My mum came when she was 19 to Australia. She's been here for 50 years. Still is not a Australian citizen for whatever reason. And you know, she never went back because she didn't fit. She went back, but didn't fit in her old box. And her eyes were wider, and the experience that she had abroad really changed her. And so I think that's if anyone can, you don't even need to be able to afford to do it. Just start washing dishes at a pub in the UK if that's where you want to go. I don't know, I'm making this stuff up, but just get on the plane.
You've been having this thought recently, haven't you?
Yeah, kind of. Like we thought about it, but I mean,
you've got the dog now.
It's not even the dog, man.
Take the dog with you. I took 2 dogs to Los Angeles with me.
It's not even that. It's just the environment we're in. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
It's like, you know, honestly, if COVID wasn't here, I probably would have done it.
Yeah,
you know, we would have done it 6 months ago, 12 months ago, you know, but it's just been hard in the current, like, you know, COVID started in March 2020. In June, I was meant to be in LA for 8 weeks. You know, running and gunning, podcasting. I had a lot of different business opportunities over there. A lot of things booked in, and you know, that seems like something that's far in the distance now. You know what I mean? I still got the travel credits that I'm waiting to use, but yeah, I mean, it's something I recognize. Like every time I've traveled, like that's, you know, when you put me onto BA, like, you know, that's something that I just look back at and I go, if I didn't travel, I would never have even been able to meet him. And he's the kind of guy that, you know, you just learn so much without even talking to him. You know what I mean? It's just like you just watch what he does and you're like, yeah, okay. I've got a little bit more in me in all these different elements
He's
of
amazing.
life.
He's amazing. Ex-pro NFL Super Bowl champ. Now has, I think there's...
And not even just that, like, rejected.
Yeah.
Rejection after rejection after rejection, and just said, you're not going to stop me.
But I think after the Super Bowl, and I'm not even right, I don't know if I'm right on this, but he was let go as well, right? And he claims that was one of the best days of his life.
It's so crazy.
Wow.
Like, you go and watch on YouTube, right? And it's like they win the Super Bowl, everybody's going crazy, drinking, and then they go up to BA, they're like, so what are your celebration plans? Like, look, man, I'm actually about to finish my MBA, so I've got exams next week, so, I'm just going to be taking it easy. Starts talking about the program, and it's
So
kind of this...
He's built in a different way, though. He's obviously got different values.
It's crazy, man. Like, you read his story, I think he didn't get drafted, went and played in the Canadian Football League, then finally got a contract, got let go by 3 teams.
He's just a grinder.
Pro bowler, so, 2-time Pro bowler, won the Super Bowl ring, leaves that, becomes an amazing entrepreneur. Like,
They're spearheading close to 100 locations of Orange Theory through California, and they just bought into Ohio State. Like, the guy's amazing.
He's an animal, man.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And he's so gentle.
Yeah.
He's so gentle. Like, I'm fired up about, no, this is like, let's just focus on. And he completely like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So he's my business partner in Orange Theory.
Very generous, he just he gives his time, and when he does, it's everything, and you see his father, his fatherhood and the way he goes about that.
Amazing.
And just everything, man. It's quite amazing to watch. Yeah.
He riles his son up when he scores a goal. Championship.
Classic.
No, good guy, and I'm very lucky to have people like that in my corner. He put money in when I wanted to launch Orange Theory here in Victoria. We've got 2 studios, Hawthorne and South Yarra, with a license to grow it to 12, another 10 locations that we want to sort of roll out. I really love what we did in vertically integrating Orange Theory into Cubes. I want to try and do more of that in Collingwood potentially as the next site. If I can rebound out of COVID, because gyms and whatnot and hospitality
It's been a rough ride.
have had a you can't even make this stuff up.
Gyms is like
just about
next
everything
level.
you're in was hit so hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I'm still here. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And that's not naively. I think now, like, I look at like Flight Centre as an example. I'm very lucky to be in business with the Harris family. Jeff Harris, who founded Flight Centre. When we resume, he has all that infrastructure to just go flip, 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 and away it goes. Yeah. I think for us as well, like, we have tremendous infrastructure. We saw an incredible rebound out of COVID, both in all businesses, in our events business, our food and beverage business, our gyms, our Orange Theory fitness businesses, and Creative Cubes, right? So the infrastructure's there, and so long as we could keep it with a heartbeat, hold, keep it alive.
Yeah.
It's ready. It's already rocketed out, right? And when the shit hit the fan for like first wave, hey, we're going into lockdown. Hey, JobKeeper's coming. I was like, fuck yeah, this is our moment. This is where, if we are smart, we can leapfrog 100 opportunities here.
That's the mind of we obviously do a lot of consulting and education and stuff like that, and it's funny, like, Sydney went into lockdown, and I've seen this happen with all Melburnians as well, but it's like they come in and it's almost like that, like, we just got to put everything on pause for like 3 weeks or
that's
4
that
weeks
second,
or 5
third
weeks.
order thinking. That's what's going to really change the game for you.
Yeah, but it's like that okay, this is our biggest opportunity. This is everything. And
This
I
is
said that to these, so like, because there's a gym that we worked with, and same thing, and they seen 160 new people go through during the lockdown because they had outdoor work. And I'm just like, I started saying to everyone, I'm like, this is your biggest opportunity. Change that mindset. But I think that talks more to what it really takes to be a great entrepreneur.
Yeah, you've almost got to run 100 kilometers out front quickly, and then go, fuck, it's going to be okay, and then run back, and then go, all right, it's going to be okay, just what's the next step? What's the next step? And then take those next 100 steps really slowly, or those next 100 Ks really slowly. But we have this metaphor at Cubes where I'm the entrepreneur out the front, spearheading the operation, and I like go in the sewage tank, climb out, up a tree, over a hill, in a ditch, get chased by, you know, a wild pack of animals, you know, finally make it to the other side. And I go, hey, George. He's like, yeah. I was like, come on through. So he comes with the machete, starts chopping down the trees. And then he gets to the other side. He's like, yeah, it's right, it's right. Hey, Gav, Sade. And then Sade starts to pave the road. And so now we've got the beautiful road. And they're like, hey, Gav. And then he brings all the members through. And then I get back over the next hill and I start doing this again. And we repeat. And I'm in my element, just like executing the unthinkable, and then having an amazing team that can kind of follow my breadcrumbs through the trail, get there, roll it out. And now once the highways are built, it kind of comes a little bit boring. At least for me, I'm not involved in the day to day, but like I'm now looking for the next jungle to take on, right? And we've done that several times and it works. But I quickly ran through COVID going, all right, so office space, leases, they're going to get fucking crushed. Everyone's working from home. Fuck, we might get burnt. Actually, I've worked from home before.
Sucks.
It wears off very quickly. There's no compartmentalization of life. But if I can work from home, I realize that I don't need the traditional office lease, but I need a space. So why don't I just get a membership and have access? Maybe I'll take a 2-person office. Maybe I'll just get, you know, coffee table down, you know, or a breakout seat, or I'll take co-working space. Or maybe I don't even need any of that. I just need a space to meet my clients, and then I can work from home. So I just need meeting room access. So we started to cultivate all these products, and I think we've delivered in a phenomenal way. But at the same time, I just feel like we've bunted the ball and we're now on first base. And now I need someone like a BA to come in and just go so I can run the next 3 and get home, right?
Yeah.
But man, I like the businesses that I was in historically, and maybe this is a self-reflection or a self-check for you guys, or at least very much for your audience. I was so hyper-focused on the destination. I was so hyper-focused on I can make my first million, 2, 3, 4, and then I'll be in a safe place, and then I can relax. But actually, like, those were the hardest years to execute, and now we're on a platform where it can really make impact. The game changes a little bit, and it's this carrot that sits out in front the whole time that I can't quite grab, but it's just there, just in front, just to keep me motivated. And maybe one day, like, there'll be this massive liquidity event and all these things will happen. And
there'll be something else.
Yeah, and there'll be something. Exactly.
There'll always be something
exactly,
else.
right? And like I get on the farm and I'm sitting there in Byron Bay and I'm having a sip going, I can't do this for another day. Fucking
100%.
Get me out of here.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what I went through. I had a big exit a couple of years ago, and then I went overseas and traveled, and then I came back. I was sitting on the Gold Coast 6 months. I was bored.
Yeah.
I
Got to wake up with purpose. Like I said at the
Yeah.
beginning of this segment, my exit was the best thing that ever happened to me and the worst thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, because I lost my purpose. The day after I got my check, I was like, cool, let's go shopping, and then bought a bunch of shit that I didn't need.
And you realize it doesn't make you
And
happy.
I'm like,
the thing
fuck,
that was
this is
actually
what did I
making-
do? And then 7 months later, I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have sold this thing in the first place. But you realign your goals, realign your focus. I think what you guys have got here is fantastic. You know, this is an evolution of where you've come from. You should be very proud. I hope you take check every time you turn the lights off when you leave here at night.
That's the best part of the day.
Yeah. And then, you know, walking in the next day to go, all right, it's me against the world. Let's go fucking rock this thing. But like a friend of mine used to say, like, you're never going to be ready for, financial planning and all this, you're never going to be ready. Be in the moment, live it. COVID strips so much away from us. And so, you know, my message of all of this today would be just recognize how far you've come. If you're not quite there, work out how to trying to get there. To think that someone like Conor McGregor sitting there with billions to his name, he doesn't have that in the bank. It's not in liquid. It might be an asset, and maybe one day he'll sell it and he'll have a few $100 million before he pays tax, you know, to his name. And even then, you know, like, I wouldn't want to be him having to do what he has to do every day to get the money. I'm doing exactly what I want to do right here, right now, whether there's money in it or not. Doesn't excite me. It doesn't change my North Star. legacy for my kids, to be a proud and loving present father and husband is a big challenge, but something that I like nothing comes in front of ever, period, the end. And I'm trying to build a business and a lifestyle for myself where I can get my thrills out of trying to pull something off. And, you know, I've definitely lost more over the years in trying, but the ones that have sunk, the ones that have hit have gone and paid for all those losses. But at the end of the day, man, like I hate going to bed at night and I love waking up. I love trying to squash every ounce out of the day, and I love putting myself through the ringer because you only realize how much you've got when you really push yourself. And I've been on airplanes from LA to Hawaii crying. I'm going to Hawaii with the kids and I'm crying. And my wife's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I think I went too far on that one. I think I pushed myself in a commercial way into a situation that I've gone too far. And now I don't know how to get back." And so, you know, like I'm going to paradise and I'm fucking miserable because I'm in a lot of pain. But at the same time, pushing yourself to that limit, pushing yourself to that failure. You know, Will Smith is someone that I look up to. Some of the stuff that he puts out is amazing. You know, you go to the gym not to be comfortable. You go to the gym to really push yourself, and failure is actually how you grow. So long as you're not doing that maliciously to yourself, throw yourself at it, do everything you can to go get it. Don't lose yourself in the process at all. Victim, completely did that on one of my journeys, and just continue to make sure that you're not going through the motions. Everybody dies.
Fuck, that's so relatable.
But not everybody lives. Everybody dies. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives, yeah?
I'm about to go on holidays and I'm like, shit, I feel like I could cry.
I'm sorry. But it's good that it's coming out.
Yeah.
Everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
I needed this today, I think.
Yeah, shit.
I really
did
needed
too.
it.
I'm sorry that you didn't have a pillow in your bed on, it's a therapy session.
Yeah, literally.
We were literally saying this before we came on the podcast. We're both at this point where we're just feeling like we've pushed ourselves so hard and there's just nothing left.
Yeah. 100%.
So you need to refocus.
Yeah.
I would recommend you try 2 or 3 different things over the next month that you would never actually look at, and see if you can find a level of happiness or a shift in mindset from that. You know?
100%.
Yeah, and I don't sit here as King Dingaling, right? Like I've got my own, my own stuff.
But you got the experience and
priorities.
You've got the perspective. To
wisdom.
But I also lost early, right? So at the age of 16, I lost my dad. And I listened to my mum go, "We can't afford to do that." Or, "No, I'm sorry, I can't provide you with that." Or, "We can't do that." And I was like, fuck, like, never again. This shit is never fucking happen again. I took control of my life and how we steer the vehicle. And it's been fucking awesome. And it hasn't been all glitz and glamour. In fact, 99% of the time, it's not. It's hustle and grind and doing shit that you don't like. I'm in a very uncomfortable transaction at the moment on something that I'm desperately trying to close. And it's making me miserable. And I'm actually questioning, why am I doing this then? I desperately want to do it. I'm doing it for the right reasons, but getting there is making me think about, do I really want this? So every day has its challenges, but fuck, we're here. We're not here for a long time, yeah?
You got to enjoy the journey.
It's just perspective, right? All right, well.
I've been paranoid that knock on the door was like, whose car is that parked in my spot?
Nah, it was a coffee table.
Okay.
So we're good. I knew it was coming, and I'm like, I bet it'll come mid fucking thing. Tobes, I want to say a massive thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
You know, super grateful. I just learned so much.
So humbling, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I think, our audience can take a lot home from that. I'm sure there's a ton of entrepreneurs that are probably almost tearing up like me and Braden. They're feeling that same thing.
That was not the intention. I just came to speak. You sent me a text yesterday like, yeah, we can talk on that topic.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I see you as a legacy guy. As I said, you're someone who I go to.
Trying.
I watch your stories just for that perspective.
By the way, like, equal, right? Yeah. So I only hang around with people that lift me up as well. And so it was Sade that sort of, I knew about you because I saw, back in the day, I would see every booking that came through. I was like, yes, we got another booking for the event space, and you'd run your courses there. And then Sade was like, you need to speak to this guy. And so then a friendship started, and then I introduced you to BA, and then you started saying you hang out more, and then spending a lot of time with you through COVID when no one else was around. And you know, and then engaging myself in your stories and you know, all the stuff that you put up, mate, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't equally as inspired. So thank you.
Thanks for your time and your generosity. It's something that, I mean, me and Braden, as I said, we needed it today, but yeah, super grateful, man. And to everyone out there listening, Creative Cubes, Orange Theory, you know, Creative Cubes, I can say, has played a massive role. And you know, Tobes just mentioned it just then, but I've been, you know, Creative Cubes since, I think it was the first location, like running my events there, and I've just been in love with it because I love entrepreneurship. I love the environment. I love the network of people. So you're scaling quite quickly. It's growing, and you know, it deserves everything it gets because it's an amazing business. It's an amazing group of people. So make sure you check it out. Orange Theory Fitness is also really exciting to check that out as well.
Orange Theory Fitness is the fastest growing franchise business on the planet, and it outstripped McDonald's in its heyday.
Crazy.
And I'm lucky to have OTF Melbourne. But it's bruised and battered, but it stayed in check because of the community, right? So
it's all about the people, and that's the biggest thing about Creative Cubes for me.
100%.
Is the friendships that you generate in that space.
100%.
Yeah, but it kind of sucks that you guys have got this amazing place because I don't get to see you as often. So maybe have me come back weekly.
We'll come back for the sparkling water.
Yeah. You probably see us in there just like shoveling sparkling water.
That's all right. Whatever brings you in.
But yeah, big thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Make sure you go check out Creative Cubes and Orange Theory. And obviously, if you enjoy this episode, make sure you subscribe. The support you show the show allows us to continue to do what we do and continue to bring these life-changing conversations to you, make them accessible. So I really hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you guys next week.